it's very good to return to this particular film, Bronco Bullfrog, and to collaborate once again with Ian O'Sullivan. So please put your hands together and say a very warm welcome to Ian. Some of you know him from the library.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. Thank you. Yes, it's one of those funny things. I came across this film. Well, I saw it back in the 1980s on Channel 4. And I think that might be the only time it was screened on TV. I might be wrong, but I'm not aware of the BBC ever showing it. And I used to work at that point for the BFI Information Service, and we would deal with phone inquiries during the day. And on one particular afternoon, we had a phone call from a very nicely spoken American woman who said she was she was the assistant for Barney Platts-Mills. And I said, "Oh, really, Barney Platts-Mills?" And she couldn't quite believe that I'd heard of him. And so I said, "Oh, that's amazing. Bronco Bullfrog." She goes, "Yes, what, you know about this film?" I said, "Yes, I'm a big fan of it." And she was intrigued as to how I'd come across it, and I explained that it had been on Channel 4, and some of my like-minded friends, we were kind of fans of the film. In fact, one of my friends even named a band after the film Bronco Bullfrog. They loved the film that much. So, but speaking to her led to actually meeting Barney, and we actually did show the film here just over 20 years ago. I think it was on the 3rd of September 2003. We did screen the film here, and some of the cast came along. I'm very pleased to say that Roy Haywood is here today. He's in the film, and he'll be joining me after the screening. So if you've got any questions, please fire away with those. So yeah, we had a really good night here back in 2003, and I kind of like to think that did put the wheels in motion for what became the BFI restoration back in 2011. So the film came out on Blu-ray, DVD, and had a kind of release back in 2011. And I do like to think that kind of screening back in 2003 did get the wheels in motion for that. Anyway, just a little bit about the film. I'll try not to keep you too long. I mean, if you've seen it, you know what it's about, but if you're new to it, it's a story of a young welder's apprentice and his friends. It was originally released in October 1970 by British Lion, and was the first feature film by a young director called Barney Platts-Mills. Now, the film grew out of a relationship he had formed with a group of young teenagers in Stratford in East London. Now, these are the youngsters that you're going to see in the film today. Now, these teenage boys were growing up in really, probably, truthfully, what could be called a pretty harsh sort of post-war East End environment, which was still populated by bomb sites and very little in the way of entertainment. Things like youth clubs were disappearing because of redevelopment, things like that. So it was a fairly kind of harsh environment, I would say. And, it wouldn't be a lie to say that some of these young chaps were no strangers to the authorities, shall we put it that way. Petty crime, a little bit of theft, a bit of loitering, that sort of thing. Now, in 1968, Barney had become aware of the work that Joan Littlewood. Now, Joan ran the Theatre Royal Stratford East. Now, she was doing quite a bit of work at that time with these teenagers as a way of getting them off the streets and diverting them from delinquent activity. I think, they were kind of presenting certain problems around the theatre area, and I think she just thought, well, rather than them hanging around, why don't I get them inside the theatre or get them involved in some kind of way, get them to do something useful. So, I mean, obviously, Joan was a titan of British theatre and had established her reputation at the Theatre Royal with such notable productions as A Taste of Honey and Oh, What a Lovely War. So Joan had set up some acting and improvisational workshops, which proved very popular with the boys. Barney himself gained Joan's permission to make a documentary about the work that she was doing with them. The documentary was made in 1968 and was called Everybody's an Actor, Shakespeare Said. Now, I'd like to just show you a clip from this documentary at this point, because I think it will help to put Bronco Bullfrog in a little bit of context and give you a flavour of the work that Joan Littlewood was doing with these local youngsters. So if we could run the clip, that would be great. Thank you.
when we first started going with Joe and tried to do some acting and that, we had a meeting here at 6:30 every night. It's about 9. Then we had to do the things we done the day before, for that day, what we actually done at work, what happened when we left school, or anything like that.
And one night we play or act, whatever it is, my factory, doing the work there, and another night, Sam's place. Another night you should do, what would you rather be, things like that now. Be a millionaire, would you have?
Well, because it's like acting, like, you know, what it's like, because when you try it, when you've got a little group, I started trying it, we liked it. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and bigger and bigger, and bigger. Even bigger, yeah. Everybody's an actor, someone said, I don't know who it was, but someone said it. No, she never said that. It was Shakespeare or someone. She said everybody's an actor. In heart. And I'm a good actor, I can act a fool. I am a fool.
Princess Margarita.
Sir William Marmaduke Burton.
Sir William Marmaduke Burton. More shavers. Where's the where's the drink? More shavers. Put it out a bit more. Alright, yeah, we're there. Fill it out. Fill it out, say. Finish that stuff, everybody. I said, you have a golf. The old golfies. Remember last season? Yeah. I won. I've done it. I can know him too. I won, old babe. No, take that. You take that.
Sam first told me about it. Well, it's better than hanging about the streets. It's better than hanging about the streets.
Is that all you did before?
That's all I've ever done. It is. Streets, Stratford, Plaistow, Greengate, East Ham, Leighton, Chicken, everywhere. Get a bit sick of it. Sometimes stay in the house and cards. I'm getting bored. No, not really. It wasn't so bad. Just have a game of cards. It wasn't so bad because the eyes used to win.
So yes, during the filming of that documentary, the boys had struck up a good friendship with Barney. I mean, despite their very different social backgrounds, what they had in common, I think, was a pretty healthy disregard for authority, and I think that sort of became sort of a common bond between them. With the documentary completed, they asked Barney if he would make what they called a proper film. Barney agreed, and in the spirit of the workshops they had done with Joe Littlewood, asked them to come up with a story which would include experiences of their own lives. Barney came up with a loose script and gave space for improvisation. The film was made over a 6-week period in 1969. It was made in black and white on a budget of £20,000 or thereabouts. It was shot on location in the Stratford area, and the entirety of the cast were local non-actors. The film was released in October 1970 to very positive reviews. Derek Malcolm in The Guardian said, "Del Walker as Del, Sam Shepard as Bronco, and Anne Gooding as Irene don't perform. In a sense, they are the characters. The film shines out of the fog of sheer inadequacy and faint-heartedness emanating from most British films today. And even British director Lindsay Anderson himself thought very highly of the film. He said, "It's a very, very good film indeed. Not just promising, but a promise fulfilled. It has extraordinary sensitivity with a very personal kind of poetic quality that is unusual in British film." Now, Bronco Bullfrog had opened at the Cameo Polycinema in Regent Street, but in a kind of a strange turn of events, it was taken off after only 18 days to make way for a royal premiere of Laurence Olivier's adaptation of Chekhov's Three Sisters. Now, this was with Princess Anne in attendance. News of this happening led to a crowd of up to 200 youths from Stratford, including the guys from the film, turning up to demonstrate outside the cinema on the night of the royal premiere. Now, the Daily Telegraph on the 3rd of November 1970 reported this with the headline, "Princess Anne met by skinhead mob at film premiere." Now, Sam Shepard, I'm not sure this particular sort of anecdote, I'm not sure whether British Lion, the film distributors, I think they were kind of mortified by what this was all about. So I think what they did was they got Sam Shepard, who plays Bronco, to write to Princess Anne to apologise and explain why they'd all turned up to demonstrate. He also invited her to a special screening of the film on the 23rd of November 1970 at the Mile End ABC. And it's incredible to think now, because she actually accepted the invitation, merely within a few weeks, So she accepted the invitation and she got to meet the cast and the crew. She was presented to them all. Sam Shepard, who was, when Barney presented Princess Anne to Sam Shepard, he actually broke royal protocol by kissing Princess Anne's hand. And he was summarily bundled into the gents' toilet by one of her minders and given quite a bit of a dressing down. So, I mean, it was quite an occasion. Needless to say, the East End turned out in force for probably what was the first visit by a member of the royal family to the East End since the Blitz. Now, Bronco went on to win the Writers Guild of Great Britain Award for Best Original Screenplay. Barney, ever the kind of outsider, didn't really want to partake in a night of backslapping. So what he did instead, he sent Del Walker and Roy Haywood along to collect the award on his behalf, letting them have a night out at the expense of the British film industry. Now, none of the young cast went on to pursue acting careers, although they did certainly enjoy the brief period of publicity and press coverage the film afforded them. After their flirtation with acting had finished, Joan Littlewood nevertheless kept in touch with a number of the boys over the following years. Barney Platts-Mills himself went on to make really only a handful of films. Bronco was followed in 1971 with a film called Private Road. Now, this differed in that it was made in colour and it featured professional actors. However, I think Barney probably quickly tired of dealing with the machinations of the British film industry, and he chose more or less instead to involve himself with community filmmaking projects in his local area of Notting Hill, providing young people with cameras and facilities to tell their own stories. In the years after its release, Bronco Bullfrog fell into relative obscurity, really. As I mentioned earlier, Channel 4 did broadcast it, never broadcast by the BBC. I think what happened with the Channel 4 broadcast, there were quite a lot of youngsters out there with video recorders, and it did become a bit of a cult film amongst sort of skinhead, suedehead sort of subcultural groups, and I think videos would change hands. A certain audience got to see it that way and became familiar with it. Now, Barney suddenly passed away in October 2021. I was very pleased to have known him for nearly 20 years, and as I said earlier, I did interview him here back in 2003, and I was especially pleased when the BFI did decide to restore both Bronco and Private Road. So, in conclusion, I mean, I would like to dedicate this screening to Barney, and also to two members of the young cast who are sadly no longer with us. Anne Gooding, who plays Irene, and Jeff Wincott, who is one of Del's gang. So, please relax and enjoy the film. It's a wonderful slice of British cinema, and I do believe London's social history as well. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to introduce you to one of the chaps who appeared in the film, Mr. Roy Haywood, who you might recall from the clip from Everybody's an Actor was talking about the workshops that Joe Middlewood ran at the Theatre Royal. Roy, would you care to pop up for a second? Big hand for Roy Haywood, please.
Thank you.
Now, I suppose we'll throw it out to you guys shortly, but I'll just get the ball rolling. Roy, we should really probably start off talking about Joan, because I suppose if it weren't for her, none of that would have ever happened.
No, certainly not.
So, what kind of memories do you have of her? What was the experience like doing those?
She was fantastic. She took a load of kids off the street, put them on a stage, and taught us things. There was some she taught to play the piano. We done kendo on stage and all sorts of things. Plus improvisations.
Fantastic. What strikes me is just how much fun you seem to be having. I mean, you obviously.
Well, she was a fun person.
Yeah. And how frequent would you go there? I mean, how many times a week would you?
It depends. Every Friday when the theatre ran on, she'd have a posh night, as you see with all the boys getting the stuff up, And that was our posh night, and we'd improvise and do things.
Yeah.
And during the week we'd just turn up and go upstairs and watch her play, And she used to say, "Barrickham, if you don't like it, call out, shout at them, give it to them," Which we never did.
He was far too well behaved to do that sort of thing. So when Barney came in on the scene then, he was making this documentary. How did you find him? I mean, he seemed to sort of breeze in, this sort of long-haired bohemian chap from West London.
Potato head, we used to call him. But it was okay, bit posh.
Bit posh, yeah.
Bit posh, yeah.
But you sort of hit it. I get the impression you sort of hit it off with him. There was something about him and you.
Oh, he was so laid back. He was always on all. He was like, I mean, how many geezers let, say, between four and 8 guys go around your house, turn up. He's turn up around here and you go, "Oh, I was just going out." So he said, "Come in, play some sounds." So we go in, we play a few sounds. Oh, he said, "Take your boots off." That weren't good, I tell you. But then he'll go, "Oh, I've got to go now. Here's the keys. Lock up. Put them through the letterbox."
So he trusted you, really. There was a lot of trust there.
Well, it wasn't until he found his raggy baggy.
And what was it like being filming in Stratford? Did you catch? Were people wondering what was going on when you were out in the streets and the little film crew there? Were people asking what's happening here?
Some were, but others like, "Oh, look at them brats," things like that. They can't act.
Yeah. One of my favourite. I'm a big fan of Irene's mum.
Yeah. Sam's mum.
And that was Sam's mum. Sam, who's Bronco Bullfrog. That was his mum.
Yeah.
So Frida Shepherd, who always strikes me as being quite a formidable woman.
Lovely lady. We used to come home from school. It was about 6 or 7. Go round Sam's house, freezing winter, and she'll give us toast and soup, and things like that. Lovely lady.
But I get the impression she really enjoyed the experience.
Oh yeah, she did. She's natural, wasn't she?
She was natural, yeah, definitely.
Really good.
Yeah. I'll throw it open to you guys now. If you have any questions for Roy, please do fire away. So please, if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. We've got a microphone, I think. And this gentleman down here.
You painted rather a desperate picture of life in the East End for youngsters at that time. 50 years on, half a century on, if you were to make that again, would it be more optimistic, do you think, for those youngsters?
Some. It's what with universities now and people be able to get into them. It gives more to the youngsters. And if it weren't for Joan, a lot of us would have been in prison. She took us off the streets and she She spent time with us, you know, as I used to correspond to her, and she said to me one day, Roy, she wrote in the letter, Roy, your writing's disgraceful. Sorry, your spelling's disgraceful. So I had a little go back at her, and next day, or a couple of days, there was a police car come round the corner, knocked on my door. I went, Roy Haywood. I went, yeah. Can you come to Bow Police Station? Oh shit, what have I done? You know. So I said, can I follow you up in my car? They said, yeah. So I followed them up, got to Bow, went in. I said, have you got any ID? I was still thinking, I've not done nothing, I've not jumped no lights, you know. I got in there, and they said, have you got some ID? I went, yeah, give me the ID. Give me the ID, showed them, they give me a parcel. Got it home, electric typewriter, with a spell check on it and everything, you know. What a woman, you know. I'm still got it.
I mean, that's one of the things about, I mean, obviously watching Bronco, I mean, you know, you can see Stratford at that time. And obviously a lot's changed around there in the intervening years in terms of buildings. I mean, you've always lived there, Roy, and you're still there.
Still there, yeah.
So you've seen how much it's changed.
Oh, it's phenomenal, like the way things have changed, the buildings going up, and the thing is though, it's all for our money, you know. It's all sort of Chinese investment and, you know, big bankers coming in, you know. But around the Olympic Park, it's lovely, you know. I mean, some people slag it off, but like, you know, you go through there, bit of a marshalling yards, what it was years ago, you know.
Do we have any other questions, please? Gentleman at the back there.
Did any of you do more acting afterwards?
No, not as such. Me and Sam used to go around knocking over pennies in pubs for people, like, you know, and picking numbers out of the hat for, like, you know, different. Most of them was like Catholic clubs, like I used to call it the Catholic Club, and they used to have like shindigs and things.
Well, they get you along to do.
Yeah, you put out something out the hat and, you know, do bits and pieces.
Yeah. But you weren't sort of tempted to carry on with the acting?
No, I think what happened was Barney went, when we went with Barney, he went sort of another way, like, you know, we were still friends, and Joan took off with the other youngers who was coming through, you know.
Yeah. Any other questions, folks?
Ian.
David.
Yeah, just when we showed the film at the Docklands Museum back in 2006, something like that, yes. Barney was working on another film, and it strikes me that a lot of his work was about capturing people as they existed, but this time it was among young people in the, I think, Moroccan port, wasn't it? And they're trying to get away from their, you know, the restrictions of family and culture there. Yes. As you could say a couple of words.
Yes, but Barney's final film, which unfortunately I cannot remember the name of now, but because Barney did spend many years going back and forth between the UK and Morocco, and he did actually make, and it took quite a while to get it together to do it, but he did make a final feature film in Morocco, and the story isn't a million miles away from Bronco, really, in that, you know, it sort of depicts the kind of restrictions that young people have when they want to be together, the kind of confines of their environment, and the impact that has upon their relationship. But it seems to be a theme that he kind of, you know, even Private Road has the aspects of that too. I mean, if you've ever seen Private Road with Susan Penhaligon and Brian and
Bruce, is it?
Bruce Robinson, yes, the guy who wrote Withnail and I. So again, it's in a more middle class sort of milieu, but again, the subject matter is in the same ballpark, really. So it's obviously a kind of a subject area that interested Barney. But like I say, you know, he didn't really. I think he was, although he had a lot of interest initially in becoming a filmmaker, I personally think there was something about the industry which I think sort of put him off in some ways. We used to have some conversations about this sort of thing, but I think Barney was just the kind of guy who didn't really sort of like to conform particularly well with systems, and I think he liked to work outside them. And as I mentioned, he did put a lot of energy into community filmmaking around West London, Notting Hill, and giving people young people chances to make their own films. I do think he did have a connection with young people, and I think that's why that you guys got on so well with him.
Well, it was like a yacht, but it was an old yacht, and like inside was all gutted, and we went off to Cowes Week with him, fantastic, load of East End kids over there with all the poshes, causing trouble.
Yeah, I think there was that thing, the kids in Stratford, they hadn't really been far outside the area if at all, and Barney and Joan gave them sort of open windows to go different places. They'd take you to like the Isle of Wight, take you fishing or do different things.
We even went to
Yeah.
Yes, mate. I've turned it off.
There's some sentimental music kicking in with this poignant part of the story.
Just laughing. No, but what was I going to say? Yeah, so Barney, he'd take us to nice restaurants, and we went to Lord Astor's house in I'm like, someone wants me. Money. No, Barney took us to Lord Astor's house in Sandwich Bay, and that's where on the everyone's an actor on the old golf course.
Oh, that's where that was.
Yeah, and he had a putting green in his back garden. So there's about 8 of us there, might have been more. And we've all lined up, 4 this side, 4 that side, and there we are, aiming balls at each other. At the time we finished, his putting green was like a player, been over it. Yeah. But and had the old butler there come up and put wood on the fire and big breakfast laid out in the mornings, help yourself. We've had some good times.
Brilliant. Any other questions? Gentleman here, please. Thank you.
Thanks. I just wanted to ask you, when you were doing the film, you'd obviously got a good relationship with the director and working with Joan being in the theatre. When you came to do the film, was it shot a bit like a documentary? Did you kind of do everything in one take, or did you kind of, if you needed to, have another take, and did they kind of give you marks so that you could be in the right light or the right focus, things like that?
Yeah, well, Barney said a few times, he said, we get our marks. Whether you believe him or not, it's another story. But we did some of it, especially on the train thing, we was robbing the train. That took a few takes, and he said, making you big sick again. Leave me alone. Don't turn away from the camera when you're big sick. Do it facing the camera. I'm going, boom, I can make big sick once. But, no, and Joan, I said to Joan one day, I said, did you see the film, Joan? She went, yes. So I said, did you like it? She went, what the F was it? She said, oh, I taught you. She said, you took no notice of. I said, no, but he said, be yourself. I said, that's what we was.
And can I just ask you, when the royalty came to see it after your invite, did they spend much time on what did they say to you about it? What were their thoughts on it?
I forget exactly what they said now, it's a long time ago, but I remember we was in the toilet, a couple of us, and just coming out, washing our hands, and Sam said, I wonder what would happen if I put my hand on her leg. And this copper went, we didn't know he was a plainclothes copper, went, that's what'll happen.
I do remember Sam saying that, because he did sit next to Princess Anne during the screening, and the scene when Irene is having that sort of set to with her mum, apparently Princess Anne turned to Sam and said, yeah, I can relate to that. So obviously it's no different between mums and daughters in the royal household as it was in the block of flats in East London, you know. So.
How much of the film was improvised? How much the action, and how much was actually scripted?
Well, he had a script. We looked at it and went, no, we don't talk like that, Barn. No, we're not doing that. You know, what you see is what you get, and that's how it come about, you know. Yeah. It was all a true story. Everything in there happened, you know, to one and the other of us. The girl writing the love story bit, that come from one of the other lads, you know, and it just, everything was on there, what you see is all true. You know, the marshalling yards, there used to be two. There's one in a place called Temple Mills in Stratford, another one in Leighton. And they always used to get robbed. It was you know, and it's always robbing, you know. Everyone, like, I'll come home, gone in one room, there's been a load of shirts all stacked up to the ceiling all the way round, like, you know. Or when I was a kid, they put me under the floorboards, come out and pull out a load of, like, small bottles of scotch, like, you know. So if you got raided, police wouldn't go down there, only a little kid could get in there, you know. So that was my job, getting under the floorboards.
Thank you.
Did you know how they chose the music? Because this bloke is Howard Wortham Audience who did the music from it, from that. Do you know how they chose it, and did any of the actors know the musicians that were involved in it?
You know more about that, don't you?
Yeah, because it was Howard did the music. Yeah, hello Howard. And Howard is Howard from the audience here with the feature. Wonderful. Yes, I'm not sure. I think it was probably chats between. I presume Barney asked you, didn't he?
Yeah, I think our manager at the time, we'd only been together a few months at that point, and our manager somehow knew Barney.
Yes.
And that's where it came about.
Yeah, and it worked so well. I think it's such a great
it was
thing, you know. And
great
I think
thing to look back at. It's the first time we listened to it for a long time.
Yes.
Hear my own voice singing along.
That's fantastic. No, it sounds wonderful. And also the sequence when the guy takes Del out to look at the pigeons, that musical sequence, that's the audience as well, is it?
Yes,
yeah, I mean,
it all is all the way through everything.
I mean, that's wonderful. I love the music in that sequence. It's very kind of moving part of the film, I find. Yes, but no, it's wonderful to have you here. So
it was good to see it.
Yes.
I haven't seen it, but it's so long. I've got it on Blu-ray, but I've never actually put it on. So
right, okay.
I think I wrote the lead sleep notes on that.
Okay, yes, that's right. Was it part of an LP, or did it become, was it released?
Yeah, our first album, which was just audience.
Yeah.
Some of the tracks were related to that, and then later on, a CD was put out by a company called RPM.
That's right.
And it had mixed up the tracks from our first album and stuff from here.
Yes. No, that's great. No, brilliant.
Yeah, no, I was wondering. Oh God, you laughed. No, I was wondering about the clothing that you guys were wearing, because I'm getting the impression that it was kind of things that you'd already been wearing and stuff that you sort of normally wore, and kind of how you got into that style and what you were wearing at the time and music that you were listening to, I guess.
The boots.
Yeah,
and there's the clothes, the suede head.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thing.
I was telling Ian earlier, and everyone's an actor. The clothes and fashion, you could see what we wore. You know, it's like some of it. If you look, the continuity is quite bad. You know, because Barney will say, "Oh, put that on." I said, "I'm not going to lay down there and get the clothes dirty. It's a bloody mohair coat." You know. So, like, a lot of it was what we wore for work, basically. You know.
But it was also part. I mean, you know, that style was.
Oh yeah. We used to wear Crombies, boots. Boots just because you got into a fight. You know.
Yeah. Because it was like by '68, the mob thing had sort of, you know, there were those who went a bit more psychedelic, and then you had the ones who sort of, well, you know, became more boots and braces side of things.
Yeah.
So that was kind of more the end that you guys were at.
Yeah, well, in the clef you can see like, I've got a pair of stay press on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's
so
right.
It's stay press braces. You know, Ben Sherman's.
Yes.
Gone for the Ben Sherman. It was Brutus. It was cheaper.
That's it. Yeah.
Ayrton jackets. You know. You know, I don't know. I call them pork pie hats. I don't know the actual.
That's right. Yeah, pork pie hats. Yeah. And it's funny, really, because by the time the Royal Premier had come around, you know, the guys, the fashion was moving on at that time. Even, you know, the hair was getting longer, sideburns. You know, it was getting more sort of into that early 70s.
Welsh checks.
Yeah, things were getting a bit more, slightly more flary. So yeah, things were moving at a bit of a pace. So, but yeah, you know, you guys had your fingers on the pulse, I think, of that style at that time.
I think we done everything. You know, when a bit hippified and
yes,
there was sort of skinhead and you know, and suede. You know, anything that I didn't do was punk. You know,
that's it.
Nobody's mentioned the motorbike.
Oh, the motorbike, the BSA.
Well, that's supposed to have been a scooter, but I don't think the budget went to it.
I'm interested to see how you got down to the Ace Cafe.
Say that again.
Was that the Ace Cafe you got to?
I'm not sure where that was. I was probably tucked up in bed then when it was being filmed.
So that would have been a bit far away.
Far away, because I live over in us. No, I was interested in motorbike scenes, of course. Crash helmets, and, you know, you never think of wearing a crash helmet. It's sort of sissy thing to do.
We used to have some laughs on that bike. You know, sort of felt you driving it, and like we were trying to get four of us standing up on it, and you know, doing a flying angel type job. Like, yeah.
Anyway, thanks so much.
Barney was whipping his hair out.
I was just wondering if the scene in the tunnel was that the Woolwich Foot tunnel.
This, you know, the tunnel. That's Woolwich.
Yes.
But this is really weird because I had personally the same experience with two skinheads.
It wasn't me at the time.
I'm really glad to know that.
Do you enjoy watching the film now? Do you revisit it often, or is this the first time you've seen it in a while?
This is probably the first time I've seen it in a while. Yeah, I'm not the other gentleman. I've got it on the Blu-ray, but I don't watch it. Yeah.
And did you enjoy watching it?
Yeah, I did. It brought back some good memories, you know. And especially like he used to take us to these nice wine bars and you know, and steakhouses, you know. Yeah, I have a T-bone, you know. Get chips, yeah, weigh it all on. We like a lot.
Do you have any anecdotes about the actress that played Irene?
Irene, yeah. I remember she sent me once. She said, "You don't like me." So I don't dislike you. I said, "But you come from West London and we're East." But no, she was a nice girl. But what happened was, this is what I was told. She always thought she was going to die on her 40th when she was 40. And on her 40th birthday, she was dancing on the floor and killed over and died. Yeah. And Jeff, the fellow in the film with glasses, he was done well for himself in business. You know, he had a builder's company and everything. And he took all the boys out for a drink one Christmas Eve. And I think he dropped something in the road, went to pick it up, and a car hit him in the head. Oh. And that was when they turned off the life support machine on Christmas night. You know.
He'd only just very recently retired, hadn't he?
Yeah.
At 50 years old, yeah. It was very, very tragic.
You don't know what's around the corner, do you?
No. But Irene, the girl who plays Irene, Anne Gooding, she was from Fulham, so I think she's the only one not from the East End in the film. But she worked in, I thought it was a local, Barney's news agent.
I thought it was a supermarket type.
Supermarket, something like that, yeah, co-op or something like that.
Yeah.
And he obviously, you know, saw her. She looks very photogenic, and I think he asked her, did she want to be in the film? So that's how she got that part.
Yeah. But Del, his girlfriend, gosh, she caused him trouble, you know, because like she didn't like him kissing her, and you know, and don't talk to her, you know, and oh, she played up something terrible. You know, poor old Del, he went through it. No tongues.
And what was it like when Barney, because Barney didn't want to bother going to pick up the Writers Guild of Great Britain award, and he sent you and Del's girlfriend, the three of you went along that night, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had the old tuxedo.
What's her name? Molly Downporter, is it, or someone? Yeah. What a beautiful woman. Oh, she was gorgeous. You know, she come in there, she was absolutely stunning, like, you know, and we were sitting on a table with some names, like, you know, and they'd done different films, and our table was the only table to get an award. Like, you know, and there was other awards going on, and there was a comedianess called Turner, June Turner. She's picked me up and we were dancing around like the old thing, like there's Eric Morgan, not Eric, is the other one, short fat hairy one. And he's there, and like he's up and there, and he's giving it so big, and like they could dance, mate. I tell you, they're like, you know, showing off a bit, but like good luck to them. You know, that was good.
I just wanted to ask you. You've spoken already just about the fact that not very many people after the film, on the acting side that is, went into the business or whatever, but I just wondered, after the film or even during it, did it impact on your life? And when the film was all done and dusted, did you pretty much segue back into your regular life, or did it hang about for a while and then life got back to normal again?
It hung around for a while, like, you know, there was like showings, we went to different showings and things like that. There was it, I'll tell you a story. Yeah, it hung around for a while. Sam got asked to do some singing, but nothing come of that.
I think, is this true or not, but at one point when EastEnders started, the soap opera, Joan
Littlewood, she said, like, why don't you just go down and put your name down at Pinewood? Tell them I sent you. So she said, because you're better actors than that plastic lot they got down there. but like, we never done it, you know. Everything you do is it, like, you don't go and put someone's name up and go, like, you know. Like one of the girls was with Joan. She got a stage management, and I don't know if she was any good at it or not, but she had a falling out with the owner, or it was someone or above her, a director maybe. Anyway, he had a right go at her. She told Joan, and he got the sack. I'll tell you, she wasn't a lady to mess with.
Yeah, hello. I saw, as part of the kind of thing that's going on, Bullet Boy last week, and I noticed in the notes they gave out that a lot of the people in the Hackney area were kind of kicked back against the portrait of Hackney that was portrayed. I wonder if there was any kickback from the people of Stratford on the way your film was being portrayed. The society there?
Good question. I don't really know, to be honest with you. Obviously, when we was going out, so I go, I see him out of that film, you know, and things like that, but there was nothing sort of ever.
No, I don't think there was any. I'm not aware of that, to be honest with you. I never heard about any of that.
Do you think that might have been something to do with the way the film was prepared, in as much as Bullet Boy was in effect an outsider coming in to portray Hackney, whereas...
Yes,
possibility.
Because there was so much local involvement with Bronco, you know. There was, you know, family and friends and all sorts of people involved with it, so... Yes.
I'm from Benton Park, originally, down the road from me.
Yeah.
I don't know this. You're a West Ham fan?
Of course I am.
It's great to see you, and I remember Sam. Did Sam's dad have a pub?
Yeah, White Horse, was
That's
it?
it, I can think of the name of it. Yeah. I know Sam had
Yeah,
a bit of trouble.
He had a turnout in there one night, and he come out with half a ear.
Yeah. But you still live in Stratford?
I do, yeah.
Ah, most go out of Essex, don't they?
Yeah. I'm an Essex boy.
Anyway, it's great. You was great in it, mate.
Thank you.
I love that film. It was a cult thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When I was 13 then, and it was all, I saw it at Beckentry or somewhere. For anyone from the East End, that was massive. Yeah. Culture, wasn't it? But it's great to see you. Thanks.
Is that it? No, you want to talk? Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roy. Thank you again. Thank you all very much for coming along today. Thanks.